look at Marcel, King of Schroeder, and when we listen to the story, it seems like it is a true story. I mean, we have a very strong feeling of somebody who is telling us a story she witnesses. So, please tell us about the origin of this story.
Okay. I'm just seeing if Anne, who tells the story, is here because she's present, but we were late at the Belgian party last night, so I think I should be here. I'm an American, but married to a Belgian, and I spend part of the year in Belgium every year. Anne, who tells the story, is a friend that I've met since spending time there. Every time I visited her rooster Marcel, which is a real rooster, which was in her backyard, would have had a new adventure, little by little, year by year. The events of the film were compiling, and at a certain point, when Marcel is blinded by his son, I said, this terrible rooster story is taking on an aspect of Greek tragedy, and maybe there's a film in this. And I have one of the tendencies in the films that I make is to do animated documentary films. So the voice in the film and the story you hear is Anne, who's narrating the actual events of Marcel's life, the rooster. She does an English version of it. You heard or saw the French version here. I think I recorded the English version, and then she said, would you mind if I did it in French, because I actually lived the experiences in French. And then we did a Dutch version as well, which we abandoned.
I've listened to the English version too, and you have the same strong feeling with the English version than in the French version, because there is this strong Belgian accent in the English version too. So the woman seems as true in English and in French.
Well, the Belgians are very good with language, of course, but one of the things that attracted me about Anne in the way that she tells the story is also the quality of her voice, because she smokes a lot and she drinks a lot, and she makes me think of Jean Moreau in the 1960s, and there's just something very characterful about the way that she performs the story, so to speak, and punctuates it with the coo-coo-coo in her husky chain smoker's voice. I was hoping she would be here to say something.
So, and did you script her story, or she just told us?
It's scripted only in the sense that we sat with a bottle of champagne on the table with her husband and my wife, and I set up the microphone, recorded her, and then it was structured after the fact by editing. So the story, as she tells it, is a little longer than you hear it in the film, and then I edited an English and a French version. I don't actually speak French. My wife edited the French version against the English version that I edited. So it's not scripted before the fact, but it's structured after the fact in the way that you would for the documentary.
Okay. So did you have a storyboard when you decided to animate, or?
No. I've reached a point in my life where, when I was younger, the films were very pre-planned in advance, and that there was intense pre-production, storyboarding, and then the process of executing animation as an independent animator who's doing most of the work myself became a little bit dead, in that you're just executing something that lived in your mind 2 years before maybe, and it takes so long to finish it that that process has been less interesting to me. So I've started to make films that have more improvisational element in them. And it's safe if you have the structure of an audio track or a story and you're animating off of an analysis of the sound. You already have a structure that's inherent in that narratively, and it gives you the freedom to improvise with whatever technique you're using or style in the animation. So it's very slow improvisation, and that gets, it's maybe 18 months of work drawing, and then it gets reduced to 6 minutes of time. But it is entirely improvised.
We've met here for the first time 12 years ago with Bike Ride.
That's right.
You were here with Bike Ride.
Yes.
So I was very, very happy in February when I saw Marcel King of Schroeder, because it was like I didn't have any news from somebody for a long, long time. So, what were your activities since
Well,
12 years?
Annecy may not be interested in them every year, but I make a film every 2 years. I was here as well in 2003 with the film.
Okay.
And every 2 years I make a film. I mean, Annecy is a very competitive festival. I mean, you get many submissions every year. So I haven't been in, I think I made a film in 2004, 2006, 2008. They've been playing well at other festivals around the world. The Sundance Festival, I started to like my film, so I've been in there 4 times. And so I have a life in the professional film world. I teach, I make commercials. I think Daniel Sousa, when he did his interview, he kind of summed up the life of independent animators in the United States, is that we do commercials and teach to live, and then we spend all of our money making our films. Basically, we lose all the money that we make making our films.
We've noticed this year that independent American animation was quite strong. Is there any explanation about that?
I couldn't say per se about the United States in relation to the rest of the world, but I think that just the means of production becoming more accessible to people everywhere. Obviously, it's been a trend that's been happening for quite a while now, but there's just so many films being made, and there's so many people with now the very minimal resources to execute ideas that are very unique. Perhaps they may not have seen a lot of the historical precedent for what they're doing. They don't know the history of animation, and so that, in a sense, gives them the freedom to be very innovative. I think that's not unique to the United States, of course, but I think it's a tendency in animation. As you see programs like we've seen here, you see the incredible diversity of the way that people are thinking with animation.
Des questions?
I had a question about the 2 versions of the narrative. How is it received in different audiences, and do you feel that each version has a slightly different tone or effect? Can you just talk about that difference a little bit?
I don't speak French, as I said, so this is the first time I've seen the French version with an audience. The French version is played a few times in France, but it was interesting let's just say this. When I recorded the English version, we were happy with it. When we recorded the French version, all the French speakers at the table said, that's a much better version. You have to use that one. And so that's why we made the 2 versions. But when I see the translation of the French version with the subtitles, it's a new film for me. I'm reading the subtitles, actually, as I'm watching it. And some of the details in French are much more subtle. When Marcel's in the tree exiled, there's a line about Max running around with his ladies, taking walks with his ladies, almost tormenting him sadistically even further. And then there's something at the end where when he kills his son, it's like the son of his wife. He kills the son of Marie, or Mariette, the hen that he has the son with. So there's some details in the French version that I only just myself experienced that I like a lot. So there's more subtlety in the French, and I should say that I made the film to the English version visually, and so maybe the synchronization between the text and the visuals in the English version are more precise than the French version, but they both have their virtues, I think.
You know that this film was sort of traumatic experience for me because I have a son and his name is Max. That's true.
I knew that.
Est-ce que par moment dans le film, il y a un clin d'œil à McLaren, notamment dans le traitement des batailles entre le coq et son fils?
That's a good observation. More so in this film that Marcel mentioned, named Bike Ride from 2000. When I was 18 years old, I have no training in animation. I studied literature. And the first thing that excited me about animation was seeing programs in Norman McLaren's films, and particularly the film Gone About Hair, which is his visual improvisation to Oscar Peterson jazz performance. And so that is a tendency that definitely stays in the work. The stylistic element in the film, in that the forms break into a kind of abstraction and then return back to the form, is definitely part of that tendency that I observed first in Norman McLaren. And I would say that I always try to find the thematic purpose for the stylistic, the look of the film. So as Marcel's breaking into the abstraction, it's basically the tendencies or the forces in the narrative that are trying to kill him there is an equivalent or an analog in the visual graphic style of the film. He's in a form, he goes into abstraction, he comes back to form. So it's meant to sort of to support the ideas in the narrative. But it's a very good observation about normal environment.
So, thank you very much.